coming off of One Piece chapter 1000, I think it's very safe to say that we were expecting a fight based on how things ended in the previous chapter, and that's exactly what we got in this chapter. I think this chapter really showed us, or at least gave us a glimpse as to what role each supernova is going to play in their battle against Kaido and Big Mom. We know that they aren't all built the same. Some may be stronger than others, but that doesn't mean that they wouldn't be just as effective as the stronger ones. Some people have Luffy and Kid on the same level, but we definitely cannot sleep on how essential the others are going to be in this fight, especially Law and Zoro. If anything, in Law's case, he seems to be shown in the same light as Kid and Luffy, and we know that with Zoro, he has Enma, which will most likely play a role into how he's going to scar Kaido in this battle, because that's something that's been kind of foreshadowed so far. On the other hand, we have Killer, who just seems to be there at this point in time on the same playing field as Zoro, or maybe they're being put together because they're both right hands of a pirate crew. But I think what's very interesting about Killer is that he doesn't have that extra thing that the other supernovas have, which makes it very difficult to understand what role he's going to play in this battle. Zoro has Enma, Kid is a captain and has a very powerful Devil Fruit ability, Law has a broken Devil Fruit ability, and that speaks for itself, and Luffy currently is the only person who has the stage 4 armament haki and the only person who can hurt Kaido as of right now. So with Killer, it's going to be weird, but I think Killer is going to develop as well, just because he doesn't have that extra skill set that the others have. So Oda will most likely make him play a much different role than the others. But this chapter was really enjoyable and very fast paced, but this was to be expected because this is how chapters that focuses on fights usually are. There's no exposition, there's no plot progression, it's just them fighting. And because more panel time has been used to draw these fights, the shorter the chapter is going to be. So this is something that we should be expecting moving forward in terms of the battle on the roof. Again, I've said this before, Big Mom and Kaido are giant characters, and because of that fact, they're going to take a lot of the spaces that we see in the panels. I think for Oda to truly portray how monstrous they are, from time to time, he does have to show them in their entirety. And we also have like 5 other characters that he has to deal with as well. So there's going to be a lot of panels that are going to be used for all of these moving pieces, which in return makes chapters feel a lot shorter as there might not be as much dialogue. But again, I'm not complaining. Fights is something that a lot of One Piece fans are looking forward to, and we're getting it right now. But let's start from the beginning and dive into this chapter. Now the chapter starts off with Kaido getting back up from Luffy's attack, the red rock from the previous chapter, in which, to a lot of people's speculation, turned out to be something that was able to actually hurt Kaido, and even Kaido confirms it in this chapter, in which Kaido talks about how there isn't that many people that can fight him on an equal playing field. And we sort of see Kaido view Luffy in the same light, or having the same potential as individuals like Whitebeard, Odin, Roger, Shanks, and even Zebek was placed in there, which I thought was a very interesting placement for Oda to put that in there. But obviously these are people who Kaido viewed as equals, or in some cases above him, such as Roger and maybe Zebek. Zebek was once his captain, so it makes sense there. Interestingly, there is no Marines there, but I think the point here was to show the people that he had direct contact with in the past, or people who may have influenced him in some way, shape, or form. Shanks too is a very interesting placement here, but we do know that they had an encounter 2 years ago, which is in which Shanks somehow stopped Kaido from coming to Marineford. Now, we don't know the means, but we do know that Shanks succeeded in stopping Kaido then and there, so it's only natural that he would view him in the same light as well. And I think for the most part, this obviously confirms that Luffy is not using the regular Ryo, but the stage 4, or the internal destruction, where it breaks things from the inside out. And it's made very clear to us that that is the case because we see individuals like Zoro, Kid, and Law make a comment about it. And I think this pretty much confirms that Luffy is the only person here that has his version of Ryo. A lot of people thought Zoro had it, but that isn't the case. Now Kaido follows up with a Thunder Bagua, in which this time Luffy evaded, but not completely, as Kaido was too fast. Even with Future Sight, Luffy was not able to completely avoid it. And it's very interesting because some people regarded Future Sight as this end-all be-all thing, and when in reality it's not, because we're seeing it play a much less of a role when the bigger the battles are, because high-level characters obviously have ways to counteract people who have these abilities. And for such a large character like Kaido, he does seem to have a lot of speed in his arsenal, which isn't something you would expect for someone his size, right? And to the point that Luffy has to use Future Sight to dodge some of his attacks. I think that's very impressive, coming from Kaido. Makes you really question how stronger and faster he's going to become once he goes into this hybrid form. I'm telling you guys right now, that hybrid form is going to be crazy, and Oda seems to be holding that off to the end, or the more important parts of the battle, obviously. Now Big Mom joins the fray, tries to attack Luffy with Prometheus, but the attack was blocked. Blocked by who, you say? Well, by Zoro. And here we come to find out that Zoro has learned Kinemon's fire cutting swordsmanship, in which he was able to cut Prometheus in half. Now we do not know when he learned Kinemon's fighting style, but this was definitely a plot point that was sort of foreshadowed ever since Punk Hazard, which was the first time when Zoro saw Kinemon cut that explosion in half. And the whole reason Zoro helped Kinemon find Momonosuke in the first place was because he took an interest into Kinemon's swordsmanship. So I think it's fair to make the assumption that this ability was learned sometime during his training in Wano, maybe before Enma or after Enma, and this is something Oda can easily patch up by having a flashback with Zoro and Kinemon talking about the Foxfire style. But I think this makes you question if Zoro has more things that he learned from the other scabbards as well. Who knows? We also got to see the dynamics between the three supernovas, and obviously ever since the pre-time skip, it's been a very tense rivalry between them, but also sort of playful in a sense as well. And we do have moments in this chapter in which Law shambles Luffy just to tell him that he already had planned on moving Kinemon and the others downstairs, and that it wasn't because Luffy told him to. And it's very interesting Oda chose to go more in depth in that, because I think this was a problem a lot of people were having in the last chapter, where Law seemingly has become subservient to Luffy to some sense or some degree. So it's cool that Oda actually addressed it in this chapter, because Law's dignity is now somewhat preserved, as that somewhat ruined Law's image of being a captain in his own right. A lot of people did talk about that in the last chapter. Now Luffy is the main character, but we know that there's other characters that are trying to contend with him, and so as to preserve the rivalry between them, you should never make one seem like an underling to the other. So I think this was definitely a cool addition here by Oda. We even had moments with Zoro and Killer in which, Killer said that if he was using his Punishers, the original weapon, Zoro would have lost, and Zoro says here that it was going to be the same outcome regardless. And again, that has been something that has been talked about for ages. Was Killer nerfed here? Was Zoro nerfed? Oda is talking about these things right now. And I honestly like what Oda is doing here with the dynamics that we're seeing between the supernovas in this battle right now. And I think it's going to go much more deeper as the battle progresses, whereas we're going to see new sides from the supernovas that we've never seen before. Now, as of right now, Zoro is unable to cut Kaido, but he also mentions that he needs to release more of Enma's power, and it doesn't seem like Haki was used in his attacks anyways. So I think what Zoro is really doing here is that he's testing the gauge of Kaido's durability, like how much more power do I need to pour into this attack before it hurts Kaido. Now, towards the end of the chapter, we get some amazing spreads of the supernovas in a combination attack. We have Luffy going Gear 4, Kid using Punk Rotten, in which we actually get to see the whole thing in the spread, and it basically resembles like a giant robot, and it does look amazing. But I think Kid might have a more completed version of that, because it almost seems like it's incomplete. So I think as the battle progresses, we're going to see stronger forms or maybe even variations of it, sort of similar to how Luffy has different forms in Gear 4. Kid might follow a similar scheme. Now, unlike the others, we know that Law has hacks, specifically Ganma Knife, which should be able to hurt Kaido, but he's going to need the right timing before he pulls that off. Now, Kaido does get overwhelmed, but it doesn't seem like he took any damage from the attacks. Luffy seemingly used regular armament here, because I would imagine that Luffy in Gear 4th, if he combines it with Ryo, I would imagine that the attacks would have a different name, and here he just used a Kangun, a regular Kangun. Now Kaido reverts back to his full transformation, guessing that this is a form that he uses when he wants to engage in wild scaled attacks, so it affects multiple individuals. But again, I think we've seen enough of his full transformation unless he has more to show. But Kaido mentions here that the stakes of this battle is going to be important for both sides, because whoever wins will take a massive step step into becoming the Pirate King. And that's true for the most part, because the majority of characters involved in this fight all have ties to the road poneglyphs to some degree. So whoever wins would only need to find one more before they can get to Raftel. So things are going to be heated, but overall this was a very good chapter, one of the better fight sequences that we've seen in a very long time. So I'm actually excited to see what's coming next. But that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Comment down below what you guys think of this chapter. I would appreciate it if you dropped a like on this video. Subscribe for more One Piece content on this channel. It is Pharaoh, and I will see you folks later. Peace.